Good morning. I'm Councilmember Jennifer Mossotti, and I'm here today at Wellington Park, specifically at the Women's Recognition Garden that's all in the 9th District. And today here with me is Victoria Meyer, a good friend and chairwoman of the Women's Recognition Park, and we're here to talk about an exciting event that's going to take place on Mother's Day, May 13th, from 2 to 4 p.m. on Sunday. And Victoria, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about this event.
Sure. It all started with the Lexington Women's Recognition Garden. Some friends and I saw one actually at a park in Ohio where they recognized the women, and we realized there was no place in Lexington to honor women and that was maintained and stayed there. So we started this garden. And Brad Billiter at Parks and Rec designed this beautiful plan for us, always with some centerpiece. So we were looking for sculptors, preferably a women sculptor and someone that would represent all women. It was just too difficult to decide on one certain woman, one certain occupation, one certain ethnicity. So when we met Amanda Matthews and fell in love with Katsina, that really answered our prayers, and it's going to be a beautiful event. We've been working on it for 2 years. On Mother's Day we'll have the unveiling, and we'll have a little ceremony and some speakers. We're going to have a reception, we'll have some food and that kind of thing. We have children's activities, sidewalk chalk and bubbles and that kind of thing, and we'll have a silent auction. So just a great afternoon to come out and enjoy your time with family. And you know, if you haven't planned a dinner out with your mom, this is a great place to bring her.
Right.
And the park is beautiful. It's completely handicap accessible, so you can bring anybody. Thank you.
Victoria, tell me a little bit more about the park. I mean, how did it start? Who takes care of the park? How do you get the flowers? All about how this all comes together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a great story. It's a great story because it was started, you know, really by the neighbors. When the Reynolds Company left this area, the neighbors made sure that there was some parkland here. And so it was Dolores Termita and Joanne Bell and some other people.
And you
who
recognize
worked
them
together.
in this garden, don't you?
Oh yes, there's a bench and a marker here. And so there's all kinds of women in the area and not in the area are represented here. And so it's a great way to kind of recognize women's contribution in general to the community. We wouldn't have a park at all without them. And as far as the plants, we have volunteers that work on them, that donate the plants. We've got a bur oak, which is recently the new Lexington official city tree.
Right.
So it's really representative of all the people in this neighborhood.
What about this brick path? I find that pretty interesting. Tell me about that.
It is just been one of those things that's supposed to be. I used to work at Baptist Health in Lexington, and when they were doing their construction, they had all those pavers, and I called over and said, hey, I've got a great place if you want to donate them. And so they donated all the pavers that they were going to get rid of during construction. So that's where we got the pavers. Tom Matthews from E.C. Matthews Company was so generous to get them all laid for us.
And I see they have engravings on them.
Yes, and we sell them for $100.
Okay.
And it costs us some to engrave them, but we felt like 100 was enough for a Girl Scout troop or whatever that wanted to honor, or a classroom for a teacher, or a parent who had passed, or whatever. And there's 3 lines, so you can kind of see what it is they did and when they did it and how they contributed to the community. It's just a real inspirational walk along the pathway to see all these people who have contributed. We are working on the sensory garden. We hope to have maybe some of those statues up on the day that we unveil Katsina. So it's got a hearing, sight, sound, smell area in it, and it's been beautifully interpreted.
That's wonderful.
And so that'll be great. And we've also got another group that's working on a labyrinth here in the park, and we've already got volunteers who have volunteered to donate plantings and stuff for that.
Well, I thank you so much. I know you've worked so hard on this for so many years, And again, I'd like to invite you all to join us here at the park, which is at Wellington Park, on May 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. and enjoy the activities, come smell the flowers, take a walk, look at the beautiful statue that's going to be unveiled, and just appreciate this beautiful day here, and hopefully we'll have some nice sunshine. Thank you for joining us. I'm now joined by Amanda Matthews of the Artemis Initiative, who is the sculptor of Katsina, the statue that will be placed here on Mother's Day. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about how you came up with the idea, how this all came about.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the sculpture first. So the sculpture began as this little piece of wood, actually. And several years ago, my much younger daughters and I were walking along the Ohio River, and we found this. It was just a piece of driftwood, and they were tiny, and I picked it up and said, you know, that looks like a dancer, doesn't it? And in a child's mind, of course, it didn't take but a second for them to recognize. And so I held on to this stick for years and ended up sculpting onto it and came up with this, which is the dryad, which is a spirit of the trees in Greek mythology. And so we named her Katsina. Katsina is the name for a small wooden doll that was carved by the Hopi Indians, and they would give it to the young girls on dance day ceremonies to reflect what they could become in their community. So we thought this was just such a perfect jump from nature to the Katsina doll, which was also wood and given on dance day ceremonies. And then I held on to this for years, really, until we happened to get a call from Victoria Meyer of the Lexington Women's Recognition Garden, and we met out here to discuss possible sculptures for the garden and gave several options, and they immediately fell in love with the idea of Katsina because she had come directly from nature and honored women.
Well, certainly a beautiful and unique representation of women, and I'm so honored to have it here at Wellington Park. We've been talking for a long time that we need to have more representation of women in Lexington, and at this point we have none, but this will be the first, and I'm very, very excited about that. Tell me about this process, because it's bronze, and I know that's a very long process, and you have to be pretty talented to deal with this, and I know that you are, but give me a little bit of background on how this process starts.
Well, I'm lucky because I'm a sculptor, but also one of the owners of Prometheus Bronze Foundry. So that is very helpful because we are able to cast the work that we design in our own facility, and that is where we are casting.
And that's located at your home, isn't it?
Well, our home is located at, yes, we are located here in Fayette County on Russell Cave, and so we have the facility there, and then our home is next to it. So, so the process, once I created Katsina in the small form, then what we did was make a mold off of that. And from that mold, we cast her in wax. And then we have a wax replica. And then from that wax, we actually digitized the information and enlarged it to over 6 feet tall. Once the enlargement came back, I covered it in clay again, so we retained all of the details of the face, many more details than we actually have here in the small scale. So we kept all of the beauty of the wood and then sculpted all the details of the face on, and then we took another mold off of the larger than 6 foot sculpture and did the process over again, cast her in multiple waxes, prepared those waxes for investment. Investment is the type of casting, bronze casting, that we employed for this sculpture. So we invested the waxes and then burned out the wax once we had a shell mold, which is why it's called the lost wax method of bronze casting, actually, for people who remember, way back in school when they learned about the Bronze Era. And then we went through the process just the other day of heating those molds and actually casting the bronze parts into those molds, and now we are chasing or preparing those bronze castings. Over the next week and a half, we will be welding and fitting and preparing the armature and the base plate and the mounting, and then we will install her here a couple days ahead.
So this has been quite a lengthy process.
It's a very lengthy.
From the start when you picked up the stick on your walk with your daughters to the end here, but from the beginning to the end, time-wise, what is it taking you as far as the statue itself?
So typically when we are working on life size or a little bit larger, so let's say 6 feet tall.
This will be over 6 feet.
Should be over 6 feet tall. Usually we like a minimum of 12 to 18 months because it is such a long process. There are so many steps, which is probably why there aren't that many bronze foundries left. It is quite a labor-intense process.
Well, we are so fortunate to have you do this for this garden. It certainly will be a wonderful representation of women here in Lexington and of course all around the central Kentucky. And I believe that you've done a few others or are in the process of doing some other women's sculptures. Is that correct?
Yes. So I'm sculpting the likeness of Nettie Depp. She was elected to school board superintendent 7 years before the ratification of the 19th Amendment, and we are going to be casting her at our foundry, and she should be unveiled at the Capitol, the Kentucky State Capitol, this fall. And I'm also sculpting Alice Dunnigan. Alice Dunnigan was the first African American woman in the nation to get White House press credentials, and she's actually from Russellville, Kentucky. So she is planned, we've been told that she's going to be unveiled at the museum on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., and then she'll come back next year to Kentucky and have a permanent installation in Russellville. So I'm working on those actively right now, and this one, of course.
How exciting! And what an inspiration you are to us and to all women in the Commonwealth and throughout the United States who haven't really been recognized.
I would love to dot the landscape with women who deserve to be honored, women who have done great things. And so this particular sculpture represents all women because the Katsina doll represented all women and any contribution they made to their community. I think it's wonderful that the Women's Garden chose this particular representation because it really does honor all women.
Well, since women are over 50% of the population, we should have some significance, certainly, and should be recognized for our efforts throughout our country's history. And also, we're looking forward to another great recognition of women in Lexington. We're calling it Breaking the Bronze Ceiling, and in 2020, we're going to honor those women who participated in the 19th Amendment.
Wonderful.
We've been fundraising for that now. We've gotten a large contribution, over $100,000 from the urban county government and from the Bluegrass Community Foundation. So we hope to have in place something that will be of significance to commemorate the 2020 of the 19th Amendment. Well, we are so fortunate to have you. We are so fortunate to be here in Lexington. And I want to thank you for coming out today and showcasing your work. And I want to invite you all to, again, to attend the Mother's Day event here at Wellington Park, which is right off of Reynolds Road in Clays Mill, to join with us and have a great Mother's Day and enjoy the day and look at the new contribution that is coming to the garden. Thank you for watching today, and if you have any comments or would like some further information, you can reach me at jmossotti at lexingtonky.gov. It's JMOSSOTTI at lexingtonky.gov, or phone my office at 258-3215. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.